how Blue Mesh works. So we can go ahead and, while this warms up, we can talk about that. So just a show of hands real quick, who doesn't know what Blue Mesh is, or generally how it works? Okay, definitely warrants an explanation. So basically what Blue Mesh is a library for Android devices, and soon to be all devices that are Bluetooth enabled, that basically allows you to create a mobile peer-to-peer network. And the cool thing about a mesh network is that basically it's a mobile network. You know, it's intended to be mobile. The devices are going to be moving around physically, and if a connection breaks, the idea is that the network as a whole will stay connected. Yeah, so that's the main gist of Blue Mesh. So anybody, yeah, we can just do questions while we're waiting for this.
So is that kind of like in Batman's Dark Knight, the cell phone kind of relation?
Yes. Who's seen? No. After's saying no. I haven't watched that movie recently. So yeah, shoot.
Is the idea that basically you could have a number of Bluetooth devices that even if two devices were not in range of each other, they could use an intermediary to transmit data?
Exactly. Yep, that's exactly the point. And basically, you know, what we're trying to do with this is.
Oh yeah, sorry. So besides being able to use the Bluetooth to share internal data with other Bluetooth devices within the local net, I guess, are you going to allow them to act as tethers so that devices far away from, say, a Wi-Fi hotspot can use the internet somewhere else?
Definitely. Yeah, that's the end goal. Is that, you know, and because especially Android devices, they kind of block you from routing your internet through something else because they want you to pay for Wi-Fi tethering and stuff like that. So it's not going to be, you know, kind of an app that's going to let you do this thing, you know, that you can download from the market. But it is basically, you know, a proof of concept, and, you know, for, I guess, rooted phones, you know, if you wanted to take a bunch of these Android phones and, you know, kind of, you know, drop them into like a third world country where, you know, they're, you know, being oppressed or whatever, and, you know, there's some guy who has like, you know, his, you know, wired in internet connection, and he's like helping these like refugees or whatever, and they all need internet, then we can do that. We can just, you know, parachute in some Android phones, good to go. Shoot. Yeah, I mean, it's not meant to be, the Bluetooth aspect of it, at least, is not meant to be super long range. Bluetooth is like, we've gotten, Sean's not here, but we've gotten like 40 or 50 feet off of it before. So better than the spec says on the internet. But we have in there, like it's open to add in other wireless protocols. So you could add in, you know, like a Wi-Fi connection. So you can have a network consisting of Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and, I don't know, like whatever other protocol you wanted to use. And it'd be really easy to just, you know, it's an open source project. If somebody knew how to, you know, code Wi-Fi connections, by all means, it'll be like, if you know what you're doing, it'll take like 20 minutes to put it in there. Cool, so we can start on like the actual presentation now, if you guys don't mind. So basically what we've done so far this semester, we've changed our API for constructing the Bluetooth object. Blue Mesh is a library, so you construct a Blue Mesh service object, and basically that lets you do all these wireless communications. And so before we were using, you know, just standard Java constructors, but that kind of sucks when you want to have like a highly configurable object. And a builder object is a lot better option because we can set defaults for all these values. We have, you know, tons of things that you can configure in here. But, you know, maybe you're not really sure what all these things do and you're just starting off. You can just, you know, have your builder say, you know, call the build function on it and get a default, you know, with all the default settings in it, and just kind of try it out and see what happens. And then, you know, as you develop your app or whatever and you realize that you want certain features out of Blue Mesh, you can, you know, put other options in that builder and get a, you know, tweaked Blue Mesh service object. Other stuff we did, this is kind of tangential to the actual project, but we're in, like, almost done with our new website, which is going to have stuff like tutorials on how to use it, just because I've been getting a few comments on like the blogs and a few emails of like, hey, I want to use Blue Mesh, how, and stuff like that. So that's kind of a pain to like write a tutorial through email and stuff like that. So we're gonna put a bunch of stuff on there with some detailed instructions on how to actually build an app with BlueMesh. Which is coming. New test app, which I'm not going to do like a full demo with this, but basically what we made was like a testing framework for, I can see this. Yeah, I tweaked it. Yeah, so, no, you don't have it. Oh wait, no, yeah, you do have it, don't you? Do you want to bring your phone up here? So basically, what this does is it allows us to have a framework, kind of like, so if you know the project history, basically the problem with using automated unit testing with BlueMesh is that emulators do not simulate Bluetooth. Yeah, it doesn't work. Well, I worked on it since you had it. But anyway, so basically what happens is you can't actually test this app in an emulator. You need to run it on physical devices. And I mean, I don't have like Androids laying around that I can leave plugged into my room and like remotely run unit tests on. As much as that would be awesome, I just don't have the money for that. So basically what we created here was like this test app that is loading, and that's not it, that's Google Currents. So basically what you get here is like a few buttons, and each button is, go ahead and run a unit test. Right now, you can see that the top is red, which means that Bluetooth or something went wrong with constructing it, which is the first test. If I actually turn on Bluetooth, and we open it up again, it should come up, and now it's going to start trying to connect. So once it's in this state, it's going to try to connect and start forming networks, and then you can run these different tests on it, and they'll stay gray for a while, and then once the test either passes, it'll turn black, and you know that your test is passed, and you're good to go into the next one, or it'll turn red, which means it timed out, or it failed, or whatever happened, it's bad. You should go fix the code. So that's basically our test app. That was what Doug was working on for a lot of it. Cool.
So I'm working on the idea, of course, now is that you can also expand from Android. So you're not just going to have an Android phone. Going from getting a mesh network to get an internet connection idea. It's more likely that you could have a tower with a Bluetooth dongle somewhere that has a hardwired connection then, and then you can send out data to the Android phone. So with that, we need a more generalized way of getting the Bluetooth stack to work with BlueMesh in all platforms, including so Windows, Mac, and Linux are primary targets right now. So currently we haven't made any real progress on this. However, we're currently looking into using BlueCove for this and having a general application that can send data to BlueMesh networks through a desktop or a laptop.
Cool. So, I'm not going to go through and explain this whole thing again, but if you've seen this before, if you've been to one of my presentations, basically this was our code structure up until this semester when we had to refactor to include all the BlueCove stuff, because what I didn't realize when I was doing this the first time is that the Bluetooth stack you get from Android is different than the Bluetooth stack you get in Linux, is different than the Bluetooth stack you get in Windows, and they're like completely different. It's not fun. And so basically that's what BlueCove is. It kind of encapsulates all of them. I'm not sure if it does Android or not, but so we already have Android working, so we're going to leave that. And BlueCove is huge too. And the API is all over the place.
It's mostly a wrapper around all these other different Bluetooth stacks.
Yeah. So basically, this has changed in order to use BlueCove, and I'm just going to show you guys, in case any of you want to help, which you should. So basically what's happened here is two things have happened. We've kind of gotten rid of the client thread, server thread, and just encapsulated them both into connection threads. And so when you're constructing the service, basically it'll just construct as many of these threads as you tell it to. So like it knows that for Android it needs 2 and it needs 1 of server and 1 of client, and those both abstract from the connection thread, as will however many we need for Windows and whatever. And then because in Android you end up with these Bluetooth sockets, which are Android specific, and in Blue Cove you end up with like Blue Cove sockets or something. It's pretty different. So basically what we're doing is we're encapsulating those into a connection object and then passing that to the router. And so any kind of like reading and writing that needs to be done, instead of being done on those sockets or whatever, will be done just on this connection object, and that has just a single interface that that the read-write threads will interact with. So basically all those can do is like read, write, and close. And then inside of there, for whatever kind of OS you're on, you just implement that however you need to. And then you can just kind of pass it to the router and it'll just work. So this is what makes it really easy to implement other kinds of wireless connections. You just have to tell it, how do I read, how do I write, and how do I close? And then just pass it to the router. And that's pretty much it. Somebody change it. I think some other people have access to my Dropbox. Right.
Any questions? Yeah. So when I'm running Blue Mesh, why is Pandora open?
Yeah. That still happens. In case anybody remembers that bug, yeah, that still happens. I'm still suspicious that it has to do with notify all, and somehow Pandora's catching a notify and it has some thread sleeping and it's waking up. But yeah, that did happen the other day again. So I have like half a mind to send an email to Pandora and be like, what are you guys doing over there? It's always Pandora too. Shoot.
So last time I heard one of your presentations on Blue Mesh, I was very impressed, I still am, but you were talking about how you're having some issues with the actual routing within the mesh itself. So where you send a message and 2 people would hear it, and then both of them would forward it to the receiver, and so they get 2 messages. Have you been working on that actual message sending, figuring out, reducing duplicity and redundancy to make it more efficient so you're not clogging stuff up with redundant messages?
So basically how it works now is the algorithm is pretty simple. It's basically you get a message, and that message has some metadata in it, and it has a unique ID that we did some math, and it's a certain percentage unique. It's basically going to be unique. And if you've gotten that message before, then you just basically ignore it, and if you haven't, then you send it to everybody that you're connected to. So that will ensure that everybody gets a message. It's not necessarily a good algorithm, but it works. Everybody gets a message. The problem is if you're doing point-to-point routing, like so say I'm on the network and there's a bunch of other people and I know you're on the network too. And I don't care about like if anybody else gets this message, I just need you to get it. In order to maintain like routing tables on each phone enough, so that you can like really optimize your routing of messages, that takes that in itself, constructing those tables, you need to send messages. You need to send messages to figure out who's where. So there's like a point where your network gets large enough where it's warranted that you actually do this routing. Because if your network's too small, you're going to end up sending more data to keep the routing tables up to date than you're actually trying to send data. So like right now we're only working with like really small networks. Like the biggest we did was at one Arcus presentation where we tried out an app I wrote. We had like maybe 7 people. So you need at least 4 devices to even test that. So it's just like not really on the scope right now. If that answers your question, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. So you were talking about how you drop it in somewhere in Africa and they can even get it so they can look at that. So, but if you do have that large network, you're going to need those lookup tables for finding the most efficient route that is currently live, and you're taking only that route. Are you planning on implementing that at some point? Or?
Yeah, it's definitely on our plan. It's just not. We're having a little bit of problems. We're finishing up. We're going to release, I think, hopefully in a couple of weeks. There's a few like blockers that we have with like when you try to shut down your node, it kind of screws some stuff up a little bit right now. But once we get those worked out and we do a release, then we'll start working on routing tables. Then we're going to throw in the Bluetooth stuff, and we should have like a lot more features. But that's the next iteration after we get this release. Yep.
So when can we see NFC mesh? In the near future?
Yeah, I mean tomorrow. Yes. Yeah, I think we're gonna have like a cool browser app that basically demonstrates like some HTTP routing. Again, because Android won't let you just route your internet through random apps because they don't want you to steal internet. We're gonna write our own browser and get some like HTTP library and do something like that, so you can at least steal like browser internet. Again, probably breaking some license agreements, but it's academic, for academic purposes only.
Have you thought about making a version for jailbreak?
So the idea is that, it's a library, so basically what you can do is if you have a jailbroken phone, you can use Blue Mesh and just like wrap it in whatever it needs, like to simulate being some kind of internet connection. I don't know exactly how that would work. I haven't experimented with all of that. But it's a library, so you should be able to just kind of plop it in and wrap it.